Hey friends, wouldn't it be great if we could increase engagement in our worship services? Like if we could increase engagement not only with people singing, but increase engagement with their hearts. And imagine walking out of a worship service and you're just like, wow, man, everybody was on the same page as we worshiped. It's possible. And I want to tell you about a tool called the AW scale. Here's maybe the best part about it. It is simple and it is free. The AW scale. And I'll explain it just in a moment, but I get pretty excited because I see this working. As a matter of fact, here's a letter. It sounds like, here's a letter from a satisfied customer. Here's a letter from a worship leading friend. Here's what he said. He says, Scott, we started implementing the AW scale last week, and then he listed the songs that they did. And he said, the room exploded with praise like we've never seen before in our church. It was incredible. Because my friend Nathan implemented what we call the AW scale. Now, let me explain to you what this is. See, we're really more engaged in worship when we sing about God and less about ourselves. We're more engaged in worship when we sing more about God and less about ourselves. The problem that I'm seeing is that there are more and more times that we're singing about ourselves. Now, I want to be careful about this because the Psalms is full of like, God, here's what you did for me. God, you did this, and that's great. But if we're not careful, if our diet is only singing songs about what God does for me and what He's doing for me, then the Psalms can really more be about me than they are about God. Like I visited a church in the past, and as I walked out, I thought, man, I didn't really feel like I worshiped the Lord. I felt like we sang a whole lot of songs that were about me or about my situation, and I thought, if I was somebody who didn't know anything about God at all, and all that I knew about God was the songs that we sang there, and all I knew about these people were the songs that they sang, I would think, man, these are just a bunch of people who are complaining about their situation, and they're trying to pump themselves up through this psychological, like, get me through the week, kind of, I'm gonna have a better day tomorrow kind of thing. I'm like, I didn't know that was really worship. Listen, here's what we have to remember is that you're teaching theology through your worship, because I tell people all the time, like, they're singing your songs on Wednesday. They're not singing my sermon. They've forgotten about my sermon by the time lunch rolls around. But you're teaching theology, so we want to make sure that we teach the right thing. You know, what if the primary place that people learned about God was through your songs? Newsflash, it is. People are learning, and it's a primary place that they're learning about God is through the songs. And so let's make sure that we're doing them right. And so what I'm noticing is there's been this drift of us singing songs less to God instead of singing songs really about our situation. And so here's what we did at our church, and some other people are doing it as well. We've developed what we call the AW scale. AW stands for ascribing worth. Ascribing worth. Worship is simply defined as this: to ascribe worth. And we want to make sure that the songs that we're picking are ascribing worth to God and not ascribing worth to our situation, okay? Again, it's okay to sing about, man, God's gonna be with me in the fire, God's gonna be walking me through this, but we wanna make sure that we're ascribing worth to the Lord. And so here's what we've done. Our team is taking every song, and they're looking at that song and they're giving it an AW scale number. So the AW scale is a number between 1 and 5, okay? And we're gonna base our number on if that song ascribes worth to God or if the song is really ascribing worth to our situation. The higher the number, the more it's ascribing worth to God. So for example, there may be a song that is all about the holiness of God. So in Revelation chapter 4 and verse 8, it says this: holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Now that's a worship song that they're singing in heaven. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. That's AW scale 5. Like, you don't get higher than singing holy, holy, holy around the throne of God, right? So as we're doing that here, if we're singing songs about the holiness of God, about the greatness of God, that's high on the AW scale. If we're singing songs that are about I will not fear, I know you're with me, it's all about me and my situation, that's lower on the AW scale. Doesn't mean that those songs are wrong at all. But my contention is this: if all that we're singing are songs about us and our circumstances, and they're very low on the AW scale, the engagement is much, much lower. And you'll notice this in your worship services. Like when you sing a song that has to do with the greatness of God, there's something inside of people that unlocks. Like just take a look at your congregation the next time that you're leading and that you sing something about the resurrection. People like almost come up out of their seat. They're like, yes. Why is that? Well, it's not because we were designed to worship. It's because we were designed to worship God. And there's something inside of us that unlocks when we sing about the greatness of God. And so as we've assigned these AW numbers across all of our songs, we'll put that in a set then. And then there are times that we're looking like, hey, how did Sunday go? And we're like, man, I didn't really feel like people were heavily engaged. Well, let's go and look at the AW scale. Man, wow, we were singing all songs that had to do like 1s and 2s on the AW scale. Now, I'm not saying that all your songs have to be 4s and 5s, but we want to make sure that we've got a good balance there, because we want people leaving our worship gatherings saying, man, I declared the greatness of God. I gave glory and worth to God. And people will engage even deeper, I believe, when we infuse a higher number on the AW scale there, right? So we want to recap. We want to make sure that we're focused on the Lord. And when we do that, when we're talking about Him more than we are about our own circumstance and situations, what we find is that there's a higher level of engagement. And so let me encourage you just to take a hard look at some of your songs, and it's subjective. I know some people are like, well, I think it should be a 4. Somebody else like it's a 2. And you may want to assign numbers on your own, or you may want your team to collectively come together and decide, here's what we think this number is. But let me encourage you to do that and take a hard look at some of the songs that we're singing. I'm not saying that you throw them all out. I'm just saying let's make sure that we continue to infuse these songs that speak of the greatness of God. And when we do, watch your congregation and watch the engagement happen, not just with their singing, but with their hearts as well.